This is Lauren Kimball for ANI 245, and this is part 2 to the animated flying fox ball bounce. So the first ball bounce was just, the first part of the tutorial was taking a really long time. So let's go ahead and start working on the tail. We already did the ball and we already did the ears. To activate the tail, remember all you do is grab hold of the root controller, which you can also access through the graph editor. And let's go ahead and just turn that tail on just by middle clicking this open screen and clicking to the left. So left and right will toggle it on and off. And let's go ahead and just play this and see what we have here. Ooh, that tail, man, that is very, very rigid. So let's take a look at this tail. This tail is controlled by 4 different handles, okay? And this is what you would call an FK rig, forward kinematic, meaning that each joint moves individually and it will affect the joints that are attached to it. So this is the first joint in this joint chain. It moves the other 3 joints and they're moved individually, kind of like what you'd see with a stop motion puppet. The alternative is something called an IK rig, where you'd have one controller that would move the whole tail. I tried to keep this rebuild of the rig a lot more simple, so I didn't go into the realm of IKs for this first rig. Alright, so let's see. To get started, let's go ahead and build a custom button. When we were in class, we learned how to build custom shelves, and we built this animation shortcut menu, and we did some shortcut keys for deleting static channels and for creating motion paths. Let's create a hotkey, or a shortcut rather, for grabbing all 4 of these controls at once. So the reason I want to grab all 4, so let me just press Q, which is the select key over here, and go 1, hold down shift, 2, 3, 4. So now I've got, if I grab my rotate tool, which is E, I can see that I have all 4 of these selected, which you can also see in the outliner if I unspool this. The reason I have all 4 is you get this really interesting effect when you grab all of these handles together and rotate. As you can see, they all will kind of build onto one another, and it allows you to move the whole tail just to get a general pose, and then you can go in and finesse by moving the individual handles. So now that I've got all 4 of these selected, let's build a custom button. One way that we discussed in class was to go into the script editor, clear all this out, select each part of the tail, middle mouse drag the code. It's a headache. We don't need to do that. There's a much easier way. Once you've selected all 4 of these joints, again, I'll do it again here. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, holding down shift. Or you can go in the outliner, 1, 2, 3, 4. You got all 4 selected. You can test it by rotating it. Woo! I'll actually go this way. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like the rotation tool being closer to the base. Yeah, so you can see all 4 of those moving. Cool. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Create, Sets, Quick Select Set. And then it's going to have this cool option here, and I'm going to say tail underscore all, and I'm going to say add to shelf. And so now I've got this button added to my animation shortcut shelf, and when I click it, it sort of makes a little mini rig picker, for lack of a better term, of the whole tail, so that I don't have to just press shift and select all of those tails poses again. So let's go ahead and get started on animating this tail. I think the first pose, when he's at this point, shouldn't be this rigid tail. Instead, if the fox is just finished, you know, coming up from the ground, his tail is going to be dipped down, because the tail is a secondary action that's dragging. So I'm just going to go in and get that initial movement and then kind of unspool some of the tail a little bit and get kind of a sense of, yeah, I like that. So it's like the tail is going to be following behind the head. Let's click all and press S. Now typically I would say press Shift E to just key the rotation channels, but this tail only has rotation channels that can be keyed, so it doesn't matter if you press S or Shift E, it's going to be the same effect. Let's go to frame 12. Oh, that looks hilarious. And let's go ahead and do that again. Let's rotate the tail this way. In fact, we could just start this at 0 and rotate the tail from this pose. There we go. And let's go ahead and rotate this, rotate this, rotate this. So we got a sense of this tail dragging behind because the ball might be hitting the ground, but the tail is just starting to arrive. So kind of like that. Yeah. All right. So making sure that I've keyed all, I'm going to press that and press S. Oh, that's messy. But that's okay because we're going to clean that up. So we have these two key poses, and what the problem is between these two is that the whole tail is moving at the same time like a board and not like a tail. So if my character, and let me just use my grease pencil again from the previous video, I had that grease pencil out. So let's just say that I've got my character here and the tail, it's flowing back. As he moves forward and he's starting to descend, like say frame 6, what's going to happen is that tail isn't just going to suddenly go rigid. Instead, what's going to happen is you're going to have this part of the tail is going to start falling with the fox, and then the rest of it is not going to be catching up yet. It's just going to be a situation where as the fox drops, and it might not be frame 6, I might be sooner that happens, but as it starts to come down this way, what you're going to experience is not all parts of the fox are going to just descend right away, and they're going to flow one into the other organically into this follow-through action. It's a little hard for me to describe verbally, but it's, oh, here, let me undo that. It's a little hard to describe verbally, but it's much easier to show. And it's just this idea that as one part of the tail is falling forward, the other part of the tail is kind of following this invisible curve downward. So I think it's going to be much easier just to show you as opposed to trying to draw it with a grease pencil. So let me just delete these grease pencil images and get to it. So let's go ahead and go to frame 6 because that's about the halfway mark of falling down. And let's grab our tail, and I'm just going to rotate this bad boy up this way. All right, and let's move this one this way, and this way, and this way. Just kind of getting this feel going here. You see that though? You see how it's already, we're not even getting that far in yet, but you're already getting that sense of follow through as opposed to that weird stiff board thing that was happening. So I think right here at like say frame, let's go with frame 3. Let's see. I think we could go ahead and add a little extra drag here. See how that looks. Yeah, I'm loving that. And then as you get to like frame 9, this is where things can start to snap the other direction a little bit. Just kind of playing with this. Yeah. Okay. Let's see how that's looking. Yeah. See how it's kind of falling forward almost, and then it kind of has to correct itself as it falls? That was kind of what I was going for. And it's not something, it's a little hard to describe what's happening, but I hope you can see it visually. So on frame 1, we have it just kind of rigid going down. At the 6 mark is where I kind of did a breakdown. So 1, 6 to 12. So 12, it's really going up high in the air. 6, it's going down, and we're just kind of having the tail curve upward. And then on frame 3, I just pushed that tail so that even though this part is starting to follow, the third part just wasn't doing it yet. The third part was still bent kind of downward like it was prior, and I'm even pushing it a little further. And I could go further than this even, but I think this is enough. All right, so let's go ahead and grab this tail. I'm going to middle mouse click it over here to 24 and set a key so that, you know, we're coming back to this pose at the end. Alright, so let's see what we got over here. We're on our way back up, so I'm thinking frame, what, 18? So let's see here. Yeah, I'd say 18, probably a good point. This is where I would want things to be kind of dragging more at this point. So let's just grab all parts of the tail, maybe zero it out, and just let this drag. So let's unclick that and just, yeah. Maybe that's a little too extreme. I don't know. Yep, it's just this part we need to work on. Let's go to frame 5 and keep finessing this. So we're here, and at frame 5, let's go ahead and dip this down, and we're going to dip this down, and this, and then this is almost following where the previous pose was. Let's go a little further. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Ooh, I do not like that. What is happening here? I mean, this part's fine, but ooh, I do not like where that's going. I want to try this again. Let's just grab all, shift click this frame, and just delete it. Ooh, I did not like how that was going. 12. 15. This was where I was going to put my break down, but maybe I should have something more down here like at frame... gosh, maybe I need to really get in there and add more in-betweens, because I really want that sense of drag in there. So let's just move this one bit at a time, shall we? So we're moving this here. I'm on frame 14 now. Oh, that's so much better. But I don't like how there's just, it's not happening fast enough to get to this point. So let's take frame 18 for all parts of the tail and just try bringing this pose in at like 16. We'll just have it hit faster. Oops, didn't mean to select that many things. What did I do? There we go. Oh, that's so much cleaner. A little sharp. Maybe on frame 18, just have that one bit keyed. All right, let's see how that looks. Oh, so much better. But do you see it? You kind of feel it? That drag that's occurring? Again, it's a little hard to describe, but another thing I could do is I could actually grab all, and I could even offset this a little further so that it's not happening at 12. Like, let's go into the graph editor. And first, let's start by deleting static channels, edit. Or that's right, we already have a shortcut for it. Pew! Alright, and so I could just grab all of these, and I could, not all of them, but like in the middle, and I could just kind of offset this a frame. Let's see how that looks. I just want to experiment a little. Ooh, I like it even more. Alright, so why did I offset it? Let's go over here. So I'm offsetting it so that when it hits the ground, it's, oh boy, it's kind of catching up a little sooner. What if we tried just experiment and see what happens if we moved it the other way? Instead of starting early, what if instead we asked these to start later? So I went offset this way. Remember, it's important to hold shift, and I have the move tool, so W. Middle mouse click these, and you can, as long as you're holding down shift, it won't change things on the y-axis, which is value instead of time. All right, let's see how that looks. We're just kind of experimenting and toying a little bit. Ooh, I don't like that. That's happening too abruptly. I think I'm just going to let it stay where we had it originally, or maybe keep it at 11 and have it hit a little sooner. That's totally fine. I kind of liked it better hitting sooner. But if I do that, right here, this needs to be corrected because you can see it's starting to connect with the ground. So I'll just grab this part of the tail and rotate it up a little bit so that it's not intersecting the ground, at least as much. Ooh, right there. Let's fix that. Just go in and finesse that. Yeah. All right, I think that's gonna work. So let's go ahead and rewind it. And now we got a nice little tail. I could have probably made it a little softer. Definitely in the graph editor, one thing I could do is, since the ball is, you know, kind of easing into this, I could try, instead of going linear, grab all these keys and instead try automatic. That's this one right here. And what automatic does is it kind of feels out what it thinks would be the best weight, and that will soften some of this action. Let's try that. Ooh, I like that even more. So that's nice. Now you'll notice also it can be a little jarring if you're paying really close attention to have 21 and 24 be identical, because it almost, when everything's moving so fluidly from frame to frame, having a frame stick like that can kind of throw off the feel. So another cool tip is, instead of letting this be 24, let's just cut it off at 23. So we'll cut our animation off at 23. And that way, when it loops, there's really no sense of stopping. Yeah. I'm digging it. I like how it came out. So hopefully this made sense to you, and I wasn't, you know, it wasn't too hard to track. If you have questions on this, give this your best shot. And if you have an issue with it, let me know, and I'll help you in class, and I'll look over your work, and we'll get it critiqued and figured out. This is just like a real general exercise to give you a sense of squash and stretch, of weighted tangents, and of that nice secondary action, S-curve action, kind of like what we covered in ANI 125. I apologize with the way that the ears deform. I literally had one day to rig this character when it initially broke the other semester. So I just had to sit down and gut the rig and re-rig it and rebuild the controls. And my big idea was to just have a bend deformer in the ears, like 2 sets of bend deformers. And I didn't think about how the squash and stretch deformer would affect those ears. So not a rigging artist, but enough to be dangerous. And it's enough to get the assignment done. So I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in class.